Okay. Testing. Like that. Testing. 1, 2. Okay. Oh, okay. Good? Should I just stand straight, right? Okay. Testing. 1, 2. Good?
Yeah, don't lean at all.
Okay.
You should be fine.
Stand up nice and straight. Take a deep breath. All right. So. Okay. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am. Okay, 6:32. Good evening. I'm Noreen Keller, and it's my pleasure to be here tonight to talk to you about the butterfly effect. And I'm referencing the butterfly effect to spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, and Ernest Holmes, our founder, refers to it as spiritual mind treatment. And in his book, that he's the author to Science of Mind, which is the book that has the philosophy in it representing the whole teachings of religious science, which he also founded. In his book, Science of Mind, he refers to his definition of treatment is the art, the act, the science of consciously inducing thought within the universal subjectivity for the purpose of demonstrating that we are surrounded by a creative medium which responds to us through a law of correspondence. How beautiful is that? You know, that is a spectacular definition of what affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment is. And in that, how it works. So I'm going to go into a little more of his definition. The art. And art meaning, art is the act of, okay, let me back up. So, art, the act, and science, which is our own thought that Ernest speaks to in his definition, and art, which is a quality or state of being, put together with act, which is an effect from an action. And that produces, together with science, the state of knowing and being. So that is then put into the conscious level. So these three together can't help themselves but to manifest in our lives through spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer. So the young, our children, are so trusting and innocent, and their prayer, when they say a prayer, it's just so profound, the trust and innocence they put in it. So there's this 4-year-old boy who is asked to do the blessing for dinner. And so he goes in, and the family bows their head, and they're listening for his prayer. And he begins his prayer, being grateful for all of his friends, and he names them each. And then he goes on to give thanks for his mom and his dad and his brother and his sister and his grandma and his grandpa and all his aunts and uncles, and calls them all by name, and is very grateful, and they're all still sitting there in this blessing with their hands together. And so then he goes on to give thanks for the food, and he gives thanks for the turkey and the dressing and the mashed potatoes and the gravy, and on to the cake and the pie, and even the Cool Whip he gives thanks for. So he pauses, and everyone's waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, after a long silence, he looks at his mom, and he says, "Mom, if I give thanks for the broccoli, won't God know I'm lying?" So that's just a perfect explanation of how the young are just so trusting in their words and their prayers. And that's what spiritual mind treatment is all about, is about trusting and letting it go and letting the law respond to it. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the whole affirmative prayer, or treatment as Ernest Holmes calls it, or we call it for short. And the art for me is the natural process, that when I have a situation or something that comes up in my life, I'm going to go to prayer, and I'm going to treat about it and treat for the situation. So I'm going to respond to that by acting in prayer. And then the act of prayer is taken by the science that Ernest Holmes talks to, when I release it and let it go into the law and allow it to just happen and just manifest in my life by being open to what I'm releasing and accepting. And there's just the opportunity for it to manifest, to come to fruition in the life of the person or the person you're praying for. So I'm going to share with you the process of spiritual mind treatment that Ernest Holmes refers to. I know you guys are all ministers, so you're really my congregation right now. Could be a new person out there too. So there's 5 steps in Ernest Holmes' representation of spiritual mind treatment. The first one being recognition. And recognition, you might say, well, what does that really mean? What is recognition for a treatment or spiritual mind treatment? Affirmative prayer. So recognition would be the recognizing, the bringing into your being, your thoughts, that there is only one essence in the whole universe. This essence is everything that we see, everything that we don't see. So it's the seen, the unseen, the form, the formless. And it's all God. It's all spirit. It's all the essence, the energy, the everlasting beingness of life, which is all one. Which is all one essence. And so the recognition is what we do in the first part of spiritual mind treatment. So we just really dive deep into recognizing and acknowledging the oneness of life and all that is. And the second step would be unification. So then again, you might ask yourself, well, what does unification mean? So unification would be bringing what you've recognized into unifying it with all that is. Unifying with everything that you, again, see or you don't see. The seen, unseen, the invisible, the visible. So you're unifying all that you've recognized in the first stage into life itself and living and your body and everybody's body and every little cell and the whole universe, all the planets. So you're bringing together all that you've recognized in the first step. So the third step would be realization. And again, you're probably, okay, realize what, you know? So you're realizing you're putting together that unification and that oneness, and you're realizing that that's your truth, that your truth is all of that goodness, all of that godness, all of that spirit, and all of that love and the beauty, and everything that is life is you. And then that is realized through you. So when you're doing the third step, it's good to really dive deep into that truth of your being and express that in your treatment when you're doing it, or express it for a person that you're doing prayer for. So we go on to, after realization, on to just being grateful. So the fourth step is Thanksgiving. And you're just putting out there that, oh, I'm so grateful for all that I've just expressed. It is the truth, and it is here, and it is right now, and it is within everything and everyone. So you just have the heart space of such gratitude for all that goodness and all that godness. And then the fifth step would be just releasing it into that creative medium that Ernest talks about, that law of correspondence, and just letting it go and letting God take it and do what's going to happen with it, you know, because you put your conviction, you put your feeling in that realization step, and it's bound to happen. You know, so that's treatment. And when doing it, it's a profound experience to then see the demonstration from your treatments. And so I'm just going to tell you a little story about a demonstration that I had in my life. And it's about my daughter. Any of us have kids here? Yeah? Yes, and I'm sure we all pray for them, do treatment for them constantly, and it's going to be something that we do for the rest of our lives for our children, which is fun. You know, now I've come to the point where I love doing it because I get a phone call from her. Mom, oh my God, it worked so wonderful. Everything that you treated for has manifested in my life. So I'm like, cool. So I write that down in my little manifestation book. I don't really have one, but I should create one. It's so inspiring. So anyway, back in October, Nicole, my daughter's name's Nicole. She's lived in Chicago for a year and a half, and then in October, she lost her job. Well, she quit her job. And so she's living in this apartment, and she meets this man, this French man. They fall deeply in love with each other, right? And he moves in probably after 10 days after she's met him. And he's very gorgeous and has this French accent. His name is Fabrice. That's not supposed to be a joke, but it's so funny, right? So when she told me his name, I was like, really, you're kidding, right? I mean, am I saying it wrong? You know, so she's like, no. So her and Fabrice are living, they're living in her apartment that she had already, and no job. He can't find a job. He moved to Chicago because he heard, you know, a friend lived there, and that he would be able to find a job easily. So weeks went on, no job for either one of them. And so he had another friend in LA that he said, oh, if you move here, I can get you a job, and I can, you know, probably get Nicole a job too. So they decided to move there, and this was like a week after Thanksgiving. And this gentleman that they moved in with has a one-bedroom apartment, so they were going to be living in the pull-out couch, all right, sleeping in the pull-out couch in his one-bedroom apartment. And so then next, they're there for a week, 10 days, no job for either one of them. And they're in this apartment that's on the first floor. And Friday the 13th, I'm not superstitious, though. I'm not superstitious at all. Nicole walks out the door wall over the balcony and flips over the balcony and falls on the cement, a floor down, totally shatters her elbow and breaks her arm, and she ends up going in and having surgery, and they put plates in her elbow and screws. She's got like 27 screws and plates in her arm and elbow. And Fabrice calls me that next day. This was a Friday night. So I get a phone call at 6 o'clock Saturday night, which is 3 o'clock, California time. And it's from this odd number from Connecticut. So I answer it. I'm thinking, I don't know who this is. It's him. I couldn't understand him. Oh, Nicole's in surgery. She just got a surgery. She broke her arm. She shattered her elbow. And yeah, she's okay, but, she broke her arm, and it's really bad. So I talked to her a little bit, and it was very odd. She was way out. She didn't even remember talking to me. So needless to say, a week goes by, and the guy that they're living with, his ex-wife, they were separated. She moves back in with 2 kids. So there's all these people in this one-bedroom apartment then living there. And Nicole's got this broken arm. She's supposed to be healing. So she ends up, her father gets her a ticket to come home. And she comes home to Michigan, and I was so happy and glad because she was there for the holidays. So to make a long story short, but it doesn't seem like I'm getting there, she, on her way home, on the airplane, she was sitting next to a gentleman who was talking to her about this job that he wants to quit and leave. And she asked him what it was. And she ended up, so she was home for 3 weeks, okay? And in that 3 weeks time span, she went to an orthopedic doctor. She went to physical therapy. She had already started working her arm. Immediately, she asked me to treat for her arm, for her to go back to LA, get a job, be with her beloved again. So I was treating all the time. I was treating for her even when she was living in Chicago, for Right Divine Order, the whole time, for all of her goodness in her life. So she ends up sending her resume to this gentleman who she's sitting next to on the airplane. She gets an interview from an agent in New York, and the job is actually a personal assistant to an entertainer that's here in LA. And she ended up flying back with me when I came here in January for an interview with this gentleman. And they hired her on a test thing. They go to LA every weekend to perform. He goes to LA every weekend. And so she got to go with him on this test run. Did I say LA? Las Vegas. They go to Las Vegas every weekend. Anyway, yes. So she got the job, and she was awesome, wonderful. And so she's continuing working there with this gentleman. And her arm healed miraculously. The doctors, the physical therapists, when she came and saw them here in California, they're like, what did you do? It's amazing to see her arm. We just saw her last night. She came to Bobby's house, and it's amazing. She can do everything. She's doing yoga now and everything. So just miraculous recovery of her arm. She got a job. And then the gentleman she got the job from, she ended up renting from him his apartment and his car. So she has a car to get around with. She has a place to live in. And she has this job with this gentleman that he's like a pretty popular guy. So she's just in her glory. She's in her glory. So that is just a story of how perfectly, even though the situation looked so bad for her, when she fell off that balcony and totally shattered her life, broke it all up, and she just was devastated. So the actual process of treatment and prayer really does work. And the acceptance of it is a simple thing for the people, too. They have to be in acceptance of the prayer, or it probably won't unfold for them, So, yes, and Ernest Holmes' teaching of prayer brings us to a path of manifesting prayers effectively through this spiritual mind treatment, through this affirmative prayer, depending on what term you want to use for it, but in the reference to Ernest Holmes, it is treatment. So treatment is our way of praying, not by begging, not by bartering, not by trying to make it happen through the ways that I was taught growing up in the Catholic Church. it's such a beautiful, wonderful flow, this flow of treatment and affirmative prayer. And it's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful gift. So I invite you in this moment to close your eyes. Take a nice, big, deep breath. And in your mind's eye, imagine prayer to be like a butterfly. See the butterfly wings opening and closing to fly. Now I invite you to imagine your hands together in prayer, like the wings closed, praying, contemplating, affirming with faith and belief. And now opening your hands like the opening of the wings to fly. To fly and begin to receive, and fly on the wings of the fulfillment of those prayers. And just feel that and relate to that. Praying with hands together and then hands opening like the butterfly flies in the beauty of manifestation. And then coming back to this space, I give you a challenge this week. And that challenge is, no matter how broken things might be in your life, what might come to you unexpectedly, any situation, any circumstance, any condition in all life, it appears to be broken. Just bring yourself to prayer. Bring yourself to that thought, to that butterfly, to the wings closed, the hands closed in prayer, and then the hands opening to receive that gift, to receive the manifestation of that prayer. And then just releasing it and being in acceptance and being open to receiving. So I highly recommend doing that when any situation, circumstance comes into your life. Just take a breath, close your eyes, not when you're driving though, and just bring that to your essence, to your mind, and release it, and think of yourself as flying away from that situation or that circumstance. And with that, always remember, this too shall pass. Thank you. And so it is. Wow, I went 20 minutes. Oh. It felt good. It felt really good. I felt comfortable. I felt like it flowed well. There was a couple times I got stuck in where I was going next, and I had to remember and look down. But I liked it. I liked connecting, and I felt like I was coming from my heart, not in a shaky, scared way this time. Very flowy. It felt good. It felt really good, surprisingly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Right.